Harold was 68 when he came to see me. Retired Navy, tough as nails, 3 heart surgeries behind him. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Doc, I've climbed mountains, sailed through storms, but nothing prepared me for this. I don't feel like a man anymore. I can't remember the last time I felt desire." He said it like he was confessing to a crime. Here's the truth most doctors won't tell you. Losing your sex drive isn't a requirement of getting older. It's a warning sign, a signal from your body that something is out of balance. And the worst part, most men accept it in silence. They surrender without a fight. That ends today. I'm Dr. James. I've spent over 30 years specializing in men's health, helping thousands of men over 60 regain their energy, their confidence, and yes, their libido. What I've learned along the way shocked even me. It's not just about testosterone levels or pills, it's about reclaiming control over 5 forgotten areas of your life. Most men have no idea that these 5 simple, natural changes, ignored for decades, are the key to reigniting desire, restoring connection, and waking up excited again. The irony? Every man who finally learns them says the same thing. Why didn't someone tell me this 20 years ago? You're about to discover the exact steps I've used with men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s to restore intimacy, vitality, and manhood. And the best part? It's not too late. But before I show you the 5 secrets, you need to hear what Harold did next, because what happened changed everything. Harold looked defeated that day. Not because he couldn't perform, but because he felt invisible. In his marriage, in his own body, even in the mirror. "I'm still here," he told me, "but I don't feel like me anymore." I told Harold something I've told hundreds of men before. Desire doesn't die with age. It dies when we forget how to feed it. So I asked him one question. When was the last time you touched your wife without expecting anything in return? He looked away. I don't remember. That's where we started, not with a pill, not with a lab test, but with a forgotten truth. Secret number 1, libido starts in the heart and mind, not in the bedroom. I still remember the way Harold sat in that chair, shoulders forward, eyes tired, voice low. He wasn't just struggling physically, he was carrying something heavier. The weight of silence, of time passing, of feeling like a stranger in his own skin and in his own marriage. He told me, it's not just that I don't feel desire anymore, it's like I forgot what it feels like to want. Those words stuck with me, because what Harold said in that moment wasn't rare, it was painfully common. I've heard it from former athletes, veterans, factory workers, retired engineers, men who once felt unstoppable, men who still are strong but who've been taught to believe their desire has an expiration date. I told Harold something I believe with every fiber of my being. Your sex drive doesn't die with age. It fades when your emotional connection fades, especially the one with yourself. He blinked like the idea had never even occurred to him. We live in a culture that trains men to be physical first. Fix the plumbing, tighten the bolts, change the oil. So when something feels broken, we go to the most obvious source, the body. But the truth is, libido starts in the mind. It begins with feeling seen, feeling present, and remembering that you're still allowed to want. I didn't give Harold a prescription that day. I gave him a notebook. I said, write down 3 things every morning. Something you're grateful for, something you admire in your wife, and something about yourself you're proud of, even if it's small. Then say one of them out loud, every day. He looked puzzled. You think that'll help me in bed? No, I told him. I think it'll help you find your way back to yourself, and that's where everything starts. A few days later, he called. He'd done it. Awkwardly, at first. He told his wife he liked the way she laughed at her own jokes, that he appreciated her always keeping his socks matched. The first time, she just nodded, but by the 4th or 5th day, she responded. She touched his arm. She lingered in the kitchen. She smiled more. What Harold realized, and what so many men overlook, is that intimacy isn't something you turn on like a light switch when the bedroom door closes. It's something that builds in the little moments. It's born in the way you speak, the way you show up, the way you pay attention. Most of all, it's about how you see yourself. When a man feels ashamed of his body, when he believes he's past his prime, when he thinks the spark is gone, he stops reaching out. He stops initiating. And eventually he starts to believe that the emptiness is normal. But it isn't. It never was. And Harold, within a month, things began to shift. He didn't just feel more connection, he felt more alive. He walked taller, his eyes were brighter. There was a playfulness in his voice again. He said one night his wife leaned into him on the couch, no words, just warmth. He hadn't felt that in years. He told me, I thought it was over, I thought I had to accept it, but I was just lost. Not broken, just lost. And that's what I want every man over 60 to understand. Your desire doesn't leave you. It just waits for you to come back. And when you do, when you reconnect with who you are, who your partner is, and what intimacy really means, it comes rushing back like a tide that never truly left the shore. This is just the beginning, because while mindset and emotional connection are the spark, there's another hidden killer that drains libido every single day, and most men are putting it on their plates without even realizing it. What Harold learned next at the grocery store shocked him. And if you're eating like most men your age, it might be silently shutting down your drive too. Let's talk about that. Secret number 2, the silent libido killer lurking on your plate. When Harold and I met again a few weeks after he started reconnecting with his wife, I noticed something different about him. His posture had changed. He looked lighter, more grounded, even a little younger, but he was frustrated. I feel more there, more present with her, he said, but the physical part, it still isn't clicking. That's when I asked him a question that caught him off guard. What did you eat for breakfast this morning? He chuckled. Same thing I always eat, toast, coffee, a slice of bacon, maybe a muffin if it's there. I nodded. And lunch? Turkey sandwich, some chips, soda. I paused, then said something that many men his age have never been told. Harold, your plate is quietly working against you. He looked at me confused. I explained to him what I've seen over and over in my 30-plus years of practice. The modern diet is one of the biggest, most overlooked reasons men lose their desire. Not just their energy or their waistlines, but the very chemical signals that drive sexual vitality. Every bite we take is either feeding that fire or smothering it. What Harold didn't know, and what most men don't, is that the foods we're told are convenient or harmless are often loaded with additives, seed oil, sugars, and chemical preservatives that wreak havoc on male hormones. These ingredients spike inflammation, throw insulin out of balance, and gradually chip away at testosterone production. It doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow erosion. I told Harold about a patient I had named Lewis. He was 74 and had come in with similar issues, low energy, no libido, and frustration that his workouts weren't doing much. I asked him to keep a food diary. Turned out he was eating healthy cereals, low-fat yogurt, margarine, and drinking diet sodas every day. These so-called health foods were destroying his endocrine system. No one had told him that real vitality comes from real food. So with Harold, we made some simple swaps. Instead of processed toast, he switched to pasture-raised eggs cooked in olive oil. He added half an avocado and a handful of berries. We cut the soda completely and replaced it with water, and later a little beet juice for natural nitric oxide support. Sandwiches became grilled chicken with leafy greens. Bacon, gone, replaced with wild-caught salmon twice a week. At first, he thought it sounded like a punishment, but after just 2 weeks, something shifted. I woke up before the alarm. He told me one morning, surprised. I didn't need 2 cups of coffee, I wasn't dragging. A few days after that, he told me something even more powerful. I felt it again. That feeling I used to get in the middle of the day. Like my body had energy, like I wanted something. That spark, that urge, isn't random. It's chemical. When your body isn't inflamed and bogged down by sugar, refined oils, or hidden toxins, it becomes clear, responsive, and alive again. You can feel it in your skin, your mind, your movements, and yes, in your sex drive. What's even more exciting is that it doesn't take years to feel the difference. In many cases, just a few days of shifting your diet can open the floodgates. I've seen men go from flat and foggy to alert and aroused in under a week, simply by removing the quiet killers from their meals. Harold started calling it his fuel plan, and he took pride in it. Every trip to the grocery store became a way to invest in his future, his strength, his presence, his connection with his wife. Food became a form of self-respect, not just fuel. And with every clean bite, he was telling his body, I'm still in this. What most people won't tell you is this: after 60, every bite matters more. Your body becomes less tolerant of toxins and more responsive to nourishment. This is the age when quality wins over quantity, when real food can literally bring you back to life. Harold's story isn't unique. I've seen it happen hundreds of times. Men just like you, strong, proud, hardworking, who never realized their kitchen was quietly stealing their passion. But once that changes, a man feels different. He carries himself with quiet power. His touch returns. His eyes meet his partner's with new purpose. And when that happens, something unexpected opens up. Because once the body is aligned and the mind is clear, there's one final piece that can trigger a dramatic rise in natural desire. It only takes 2 minutes a day, and it's so simple, most men laugh when they first hear it. But once they try it, they stop laughing. Let me show you what it is. Secret number 3. The 2-minute ritual that reawakens desire. I've lost count of how many times I've heard a man say, "Doc, I just don't feel like myself anymore." And when I ask what they mean, it's rarely just about sex. It's about feeling slow, disconnected, dulled, like their fire has gone out. And for a lot of them, that loss feels permanent. That's how Harold described it too. By now, he had already started making progress. His relationship with his wife was warmer. He was more emotionally present. His diet had shifted and he was feeling clearer, even waking up with more natural energy. But something still wasn't fully lighting up. "I'm still not getting that charge, he said, like the feeling you get when you're ready, not just mentally, but physically, like your body wants to move, wants to act." And I knew exactly what he was talking about, because desire doesn't just live in the mind or the heart, it also lives in the blood, in the pulse, in the oxygen pumping through your muscles and brain. And most importantly, it lives in motion. The truth is, most older men think you need to spend an hour at the gym to get your energy back. So when they can't, they give up. But what they don't realize is that your body doesn't need long, punishing workouts. It needs consistency. It needs a spark. That's when I taught Harold a little routine I've given to dozens of my patients, a 2-minute ritual that I personally do every single morning. I call it a wake-up for your hormones. It's simple, yeah. It's quick, and it sends a very clear signal to your body. I'm still alive, and I'm still ready. Harold was skeptical. 2 minutes? That's it? That's it, I told him, but you have to do it every day. The first morning, I had him start with 10 slow, deep breaths, expanding his belly with each inhale. Most of us forget how to breathe deeply, especially when we're stressed. But deep breathing triggers your parasympathetic nervous system. It calms the mind and reduces cortisol, the hormone that kills both desire and sleep. After the breaths, I had him do 20 slow squats. No weights, just steady body movement, feet shoulder-width apart, spine tall. Every time he rose up, he was pushing blood through his lower body, exactly where blood flow needs to improve for a strong libido. Then I had him finish with 1 minute of shadow boxing, not to fight, not to win, just to move. Light punches in the air, letting his shoulders and chest activate. His heart beat a little faster. His testosterone released like the body was saying, "Yes, I remember this." At the end of the second day, Harold called me. He was out of breath, laughing. "I haven't thrown a punch since the 70s, he said, but I kind of loved it." By the end of the week, his whole posture had changed. He stood taller, his voice had a different tone. He told me he started doing the routine before he even brushed his teeth because he liked the way it made him feel afterward. That lightness, that clarity, it stayed with him all day. And the best part? His wife noticed. "You seem more alive," she told him. He hadn't heard that in years. That's the beauty of this ritual. It doesn't just work the body, it sharpens your confidence, your presence, your masculinity. It's a reminder to yourself and to the world around you that you're still in the game. There's real science behind it too. Gentle, consistent physical movement boosts nitric oxide, supports healthy testosterone levels, and improves blood flow, especially where it matters most. It also reawakens your connection to your own body, which is something many men lose as they get older. But once that bond is rebuilt, it starts showing up in every part of your life. I've had patients tell me they feel their balance coming back, that they start walking with purpose again. One man even told me, "I don't know what it is, doc, but my wife keeps giving me these little looks again." That's not an accident. That's energy. That's presence. That's what happens when you remind your body every day that it was made for more than just sitting still and fading away. Harold never missed a day after that first week. He said it gave him something to be proud of, something he controlled. And that's what makes this ritual so powerful. It's not just about movement. It's about reclaiming rhythm, routine, and confidence. But even with that daily charge, there's one factor that can crush all progress if left unspoken. It's not physical. It's not hormonal. It's something deeper, something that affects millions of older men but rarely gets addressed. And it might be the most unexpected libido killer of them all. Let's talk about it next. Secret number 4. Loneliness is a libido killer. The first time I realized how deeply loneliness affects a man's desire, it wasn't in a lab or a textbook, it was in my office on a rainy Wednesday afternoon. A patient named Richard, 76 years old, sat across from me. He looked healthy enough on paper, normal labs, decent mobility, no major complaints. But when I asked how he was really doing, his eyes welled up. "I go whole days without speaking to anyone," he said. "Sometimes I forget what my own voice sounds like." That kind of silence, prolonged, invisible aching, is one of the most dangerous forces I've seen in older men. It doesn't show up on scans, it doesn't come with a fever or rash, but it seeps into your spirit, slowly choking off the parts of you that once felt alive, including your desire. People think libido is about testosterone or performance. That's only part of the picture. The deeper truth is that intimacy, connection, and sexual vitality are deeply emotional experiences. They're tied to whether you feel seen, valued, and touched, not just physically, but emotionally. And when those pieces are missing, the body follows. Even a healthy heart will struggle to beat with passion if it's wrapped in loneliness. Harold, who had already made so much progress, hit this wall too. He had rebuilt emotional closeness with his wife, changed his diet, and committed to his daily 2-minute ritual. But one day he came in quieter than usual. I could tell something was off. When I asked him about it, he shrugged. "She's been out of town visiting our daughter. I didn't realize how quiet the house would feel. I guess I got used to the noise." It hit me then. Harold wasn't just missing his wife. He was missing connection itself, companionship, conversation, purpose. And it had only taken a few days of isolation for that shadow to creep in again. I told him something I've come to believe with conviction. Loneliness isn't just a feeling, it's a form of stress. And chronic emotional isolation triggers the release of cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone. Over time, cortisol suppresses testosterone, disrupts sleep, increases inflammation, and numbs emotional sensitivity, all critical components of a healthy sex drive. The worst part is that many men have been conditioned to ignore this pain. You've been taught to tough it out, to not bother others with your needs, to stay stoic. But what we call strength sometimes turns into self-abandonment, and the body can only take so much of that. So we made a plan. I asked Harold to choose just 2 social connections to invest in over the next month. Not 10, just 2. One friend and one group. He chose an old Navy buddy he hadn't spoken to in years and a local community garden project his wife had mentioned once. It felt silly to him at first. "What's a garden got to do with libido?" he asked. But after 3 weeks, the answer was obvious. "I forgot what it feels like to laugh with someone," he told me. "Just being out there, digging in the dirt, cracking jokes, I felt like I belonged again." That feeling, that sense of belonging, lit something up in him. His energy rose. His conversations with his wife deepened. His entire demeanor shifted. And most important of all, his desire came back stronger. Not because of a supplement, but because the emotional pressure that had been weighing him down had finally lifted. I've seen this pattern so many times, it's almost a formula. A man begins to isolate. His stress increases. His hormones shift. His sleep gets worse. His desire fades, and the silence deepens. But when he reconnects even just a little, the body responds. Blood pressure stabilizes. Hormones balance. Mood improves. And intimacy becomes possible again. You don't need to be the life of the party. You just need to feel seen. So I encourage you, if you're reading this right now and realizing you've pulled away from people, start with one small step. Call someone you haven't spoken to in a while. Join a group that shares something you care about. Volunteer. Find something that puts you around other people with no pressure, just presence. Because connection is more than comfort. It's medicine. For your heart, your body, and your sense of desire. And now that you understand just how powerful your environment and emotions are in shaping libido, we're ready to take the final step. Because there's one last secret, maybe the most surprising of them all. It has nothing to do with fixing or restoring anything. In fact, it's about embracing something that most men try to run from. And once you understand how to shift this perspective, everything else falls into place. Let me show you what it is. Secret number 5. Reframe aging as sexual power, not decline. I remember sitting across from Harold a few months into our work together. By that point, he had transformed. He was eating differently, moving daily, breathing deeper, connecting more openly with his wife, and even volunteering at a community garden a few mornings a week. The man who once walked into my office ashamed and disconnected now spoke with energy in his voice and purpose in his step. But on that day, he looked thoughtful, almost hesitant. "Doc," he said slowly, "why didn't I do all this when I was younger?" There was a sadness in that question, a kind of quiet grief. It's one I've heard from many men, and I knew exactly how he felt. It's easy to believe that sex, intimacy, and vitality belong to the young, that once the hair goes gray and the body changes shape, we're simply winding down. And I think more than anything, that belief, the one that whispers you're past your prime, is what keeps so many good men stuck. So I told Harold what I've told every man who's ever asked me that same question. You didn't fail, Harold. You evolved. There's a narrative we're fed as men that youth is everything, that performance, drive, and stamina are the gold standard of masculinity. But aging doesn't take your power away. It refines it. With age comes patience, presence, wisdom, a deeper understanding of what intimacy really means. When we're young, sex can be fast and impulsive. When we're older, it can be deeply emotional, spiritual, connective, if we let it. And here's what's most surprising. For many men, sex after 60 can actually become better. Not despite aging, but because of it. When Harold finally let go of the old script that sex had to look or feel like it did in his 40s, he started to find joy in something else entirely. The shared glances across a room, the lingering hand on the small of the back, the quiet moments in bed where nothing needed to be proven. He wasn't chasing performance anymore. He was offering presence, and that changed everything. One night, his wife said something to him that nearly brought him to tears. She said, "It's not that I need you to be young again. I just want you to be here." And you are. That's the moment I wish every man could reach. Because true sexual vitality isn't about achieving perfection. It's about being open to connection, about feeling comfortable in your skin, about bringing your full self, scars, wisdom, heart to your partner without shame or apology. Harold began to see aging not as a slow slide downward, but as a shift into a new kind of strength, one rooted not in youth, but in truth. His desire came from a place of confidence, not pressure, and in that confidence he discovered something he'd never experienced before, a kind of intimacy that wasn't tied to performance, but to love, presence, and deep, quiet knowing. When men stop fighting age and start embracing what it offers, something remarkable happens. The stress lifts, the comparisons fade, and in that space, a man can finally come home to himself and to his partner in a way that feels grounded, honest, and deeply fulfilling. If you take just one thing from everything I've shared so far, let it be this: aging is not the enemy of your desire. It's the doorway to its most powerful form, but only if you choose to walk through it. And now that you've heard all 5 of the secrets, the same 5 that changed Harold's life and the lives of thousands of men I've worked with, you might be wondering, what's next? How do you bring all of this together into something that lasts? That's exactly what we'll explore in the final part, because lasting change doesn't come from knowing alone, it comes from choosing. And in the conclusion, I'll show you how to take the first real step, the one that matters most. Conclusion: aging doesn't mean losing desire, it means rekindling it. Not long ago, Harold came into my office for a routine follow-up. He was wearing a worn leather jacket, the kind he hadn't worn in years. He looked sharp, relaxed, even a little mischievous. "You know what's funny, Doc?" he said. "I thought this part of my life was over. Turns out it was just waiting for me to show back up." That's what this journey has been about. Not rewinding the clock, not pretending to be who we were at 35, but finally becoming who we were meant to be at this age. Strong, clear, connected, and fully alive. If you've made it this far, you've seen what Harold discovered for himself, and what I've seen again and again in the lives of the men I've served for over 3 decades. The decline in desire that so many older men experience isn't inevitable. It's not some cruel joke of biology. It's a wake-up call. A quiet, persistent nudge saying you've got more living to do, but you've got to approach it differently now. Let's pause for a moment and look back at what really matters. The first thing we talked about was the mind. That was no accident, because for most men, the slow fade in libido doesn't start in the body. It starts in the thoughts, the quiet doubts, the comparisons to who you once were, the shame that creeps in when desire disappears. That's why Harold's transformation began not with medication, but with morning reflections, reminding himself of what he loved, who he loved, and what still made him feel alive. That small shift rewired everything. Then we moved to food, because as you age, what you put on your plate matters more than ever. It can either energize you or drain you. It can support testosterone or sabotage it. Harold didn't go on a diet. He simply started eating like a man who respected his body again. Real food, clean fuel. He cut out the hidden saboteurs, sugar, processed oils, chemical-laced snacks, and within days his body began to respond. Not just with more energy, but with that quiet internal yes that tells you desire is waking up again. After that, we brought in the body. Not with heavy workouts or punishing routines, but with a 2-minute ritual that reminded Harold's muscles and blood vessels and brain that he was still here, still capable, still powerful. Every squat, every breath, every light punch into the air became a message. I'm not finished yet. That daily movement did more than get his heart pumping. It gave him ownership of his body again. It brought him back into rhythm. But then came the unexpected piece, loneliness. The part most men don't talk about, the part we're trained to overlook, but it's real and it's deadly. I've seen men with perfect numbers on paper still feel empty inside because they've cut themselves off, from friends, from their partners, from any sense of belonging. Harold's story reminded us that connection isn't optional, it's essential. That a conversation over coffee, a laugh in the garden, or a phone call to an old buddy can change your hormone profile more than most pills ever could. And finally, we talked about mindset, not just in terms of thoughts, but how you see your age, your body, your role in intimacy. Too many men carry the belief that growing older is a process of becoming invisible. But it's not. If anything, this stage of life offers something youth never could: perspective, depth, confidence that comes not from chasing approval, but from knowing who you are. Harold stopped trying to perform and started showing up. That shift in how he saw himself, that's what turned the spark into a flame. So what now? This isn't just about Harold. This is about you. About every man who's ever looked in the mirror and wondered if he's still allowed to feel desire. Still capable of giving and receiving intimacy. Still worthy of being touched, not just by someone else, but by life itself. Let me be absolutely clear with you, yes, you are. The path back to vitality isn't complicated, but it does require something rare in today's world: intentional living. Choosing each day to do the things that bring your body and mind back into alignment. Choosing to nourish, move, breathe, connect, and reframe. Not out of desperation, but out of respect. For yourself, for your partner, for the life you still get to lead. I've worked with men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s who have reignited their marriages, started new relationships, found peace with their bodies, and rediscovered passions they thought were gone forever. Some of them did it slowly. Some of them leapt forward like they'd been waiting for permission. But all of them had one thing in common: they refused to believe that getting older meant giving up. You might be one step away from feeling that again. One deep breath, one honest conversation, one walk around the block, one better meal, one call to someone who matters, one act of courage that says, "I'm not done." The 5 secrets we've uncovered aren't just tools, they're invitations. Invitations to return to your body, to your relationships, to your confidence, and to the part of you that still longs to live fully, love deeply, and touch the world around you with presence and purpose. So don't let this just be something you read. Let it be the beginning of something you reclaim. Because aging doesn't mean losing desire. It means you've earned the right to rediscover it with deeper meaning, fuller heart, and wiser hands. And if Harold could do it, so can you. If this message spoke to you or reminded you of someone you care about, don't keep it to yourself. Give it a like, share it with a friend, and help more men rediscover the strength, intimacy, and energy they still carry inside. It's never too late to turn things around. Sometimes all it takes is one story to light the spark.